All right. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. And we would like to let you know that this is being recorded, and it will be available on the community link I'll also provide in the chat. So take it away, Ankur, and make sure that you are in presentation mode.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so should I start?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah, okay. Good morning all, and good evening everyone. So today's session is about discovering OAuth 2.0 with inbound REST. Okay. So introduction. So myself Ankur Bawiskar. So I'm currently working with Deloitte as a consultant, and function is consulting. So total years of experience is over 6+ years, and expertise is scripting, web services, custom applications. And recent achievements are like I am like community MVP for 3 years, 2018, 19, and 20, and also featured in the Now Creators site. And about some certifications, I have ITSM, HR, CAD, and CSA. Some introduction on the company. Deloitte is an award-winning global elite partner of ServiceNow, and primary focus is on ServiceNow consulting and delivery services. So agenda for the topic is OAuth, terminologies, ServiceNow and OAuth, setting up OAuth, how we can set up, and then how we are testing the OAuth 2.0 setup using the Postman tool, and what are the benefits, best practices, and the security related points around that. So basically, what is OAuth 2.0? So OAuth is an open authorization. It's an open standard for token-based authentication and authorization on the internet. So it allows external clients or applications to access the instance resources by obtaining a token rather than entering the login credentials with each resource request. So OAuth 2.0 is the latest version for OAuth protocol, and it supports 6 flows. OAuth 2.0 is faster and easier to implement as compared to OAuth 1.0. So many times we have integrations with third-party applications or external applications, and they insist to use OAuth authentication instead of the basic authentication because OAuth is somewhat more secured and reliable as compared to the basic authentication. So the main concept behind OAuth 2.0 is token-based authorization. Okay. So basically it uses tokens to prove an identity between the consumers and the service providers. So simple example you can take as Facebook application. So like consider you are using a Facebook application and it asks you to share your profile pictures. Okay. And so here Facebook is the service provider, and it has your login credentials and password. Okay. And you as the user are willing to share the information to the third party application. So in this case, Facebook is the provider and the application is the consumer, and you need not share the credentials to the application. Facebook handles the OAuth in the backend, and it will take care the rest of the part. So different services which already supports OAuth are Google, GitHub, Salesforce, and Facebook. So there are few terminologies which we need to go through in terms of OAuth 2.0. So first is the resource owner. So this is the entity capable of granting the access to the protected resource. So it's always a user account. So you can consider this as a user using which will be obtaining the access token. Second is the client. So client is basically any third party application, okay, which wants to make request for the protected resource on behalf of the resource owner. So next is the authorization server. In this case, authorization service is ServiceNow. Okay, so it validates the resource owner's credentials. If authorization is successful, it will issue the access token to the client on behalf of the resource owner. More details will be covered in like how to obtain the access token in the upcoming slides. Next is the authorization request. So basically it's a request to access the protected resource. In this case, it could be an API endpoint, which we will be providing to the third party application. So it will always be HTTP post message, which contains the ID of the client. So every client will have a unique ID. Okay. Next is the authorization grant. So basically, it's like a credential that represents the authorization from the resource owner to access the resource. It can be either a login credentials or a refresh token. So login credentials in the case of obtaining the access token and the refresh token at the initial place, and later on it can be used for obtaining the token by using the refresh token. Next part is the access token. So basically, access token is a secure string which client uses to access the protected resource. It is issued by the ServiceNow instance. Each access token has a specific lifespan, or you can say it's the time to live. So default lifespan is 30 minutes for the access token. Next is the refresh token. So basically, it's a credential which client uses to obtain a new access token. Okay, so basically refresh token is used to obtain the access token once the previous access token has expired. Because access tokens only live for a short time, we need to use refresh token to obtain the access token again. So the default lifespan is 100 days. ServiceNow has set the value to 100 days for the refresh token. Next is the grant type. So basically OAuth, as I said, it supports 6 flows. So basically there are 6 different grant types which are supported. So basically grant types are like the steps using which we can obtain the access token and using which we can access the resources, that is the endpoint. Okay, so ServiceNow has some limitations in terms of like what all grant types are supported. Next slide. So now how ServiceNow and OAuth 2.0 are related. So ServiceNow by default supports following authentication for inbound REST APIs, which is the basic authentication and OAuth based authentication. Okay, so OAuth plugin is by default active on new and upgraded instances. So the name of plugin is OAuth 2.0. So just ensuring that the plugin is active won't be sufficient. You have to make sure that the property which is mentioned here needs to be active so that the instance can generate the access token. Okay, so now here the topic for the session is inbound APIs. So for inbound based OAuth, ServiceNow only supports following grant types, which are the resource owner password credentials, which is the password, which is the short form, and the authorization code. So for my demo session, I have used resource owner password credentials, okay, as a part of this session. So one thing around OAuth is it is only supported for inbound REST API endpoints and not for any SOAP endpoints. Okay, I think some chats are there. Okay. So basically, this is just a simple flow diagram between the external application and ServiceNow, how the flow can happen. So basically, first step would be the external client or the application will obtain the access token. Okay. ServiceNow will then provide the access token and the refresh token to the external application. And once this is received, external client can use the actual endpoint of the API using the access token. They can use the resources using the access token which they have received in the step number 2. Okay, so now here comes the practical part, like how we are setting up the OAuth for the inbound REST. So what I will do, I will cover up few slides and then I will show you in the demo instance like how it has to be done so that you can correlate the slides and the actual instance. Okay, so basically you have to navigate to this left navigation in the system OAuth application registry. So since we want it to be endpoint to be created for external clients, we will select this option, create an OAuth API endpoint for external clients. We have to fill the form, which is the table. So there is the name field, which is unique name, which identifies the client. So consider like you are having one integration with SAP and one integration with some other Salesforce team. So you will be having 2 different OAuth records for 2 different applications. So the client ID, this is auto generated by the instance. We need not take care of this. It is auto generated. Client secret, this is also auto generated by the instance. Then refresh token, as I said earlier, refresh token time span is 100 days. It can be increased or decreased. Next is the access token. Its default lifespan is 30 minutes and it can be increased. So now we have done this setup, but we will be requiring an user to obtain the access token. So basically we have created one user with this username and password, res.user. So this user should be active and it should not be logged out so that the instance can generate the access token using this user. Okay. So this is the screenshot of the instance. So what I will do, I will go to the instance and show how the configuration looks like. So I will stop the presentation. So this is the instance, and so you type OAuth in the left navigation. You see here this application registry. So here you will have to create new. I have already created one for the demo, but I will just show you how it has to be created. So you have to click on this link, create an OAuth API endpoint for external clients. So once you click that, you can see here there is a name field which is mandatory. Client ID is automatically populated, and we need not give anything the client secret. It will be auto generated. So I will show the record which I have created for the session. This is the name OAuth demo testing.
Ankur, we cannot see the present screen, your screen.
Okay. Let me stop sharing 1 minute.
Yeah, let's make sure it's also in presentation mode. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, now it's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, this is the record which I have created for the session. So if you see here, name I have given, client ID is automatically populated, and client secret is also automatically populated. So if you want to see what the client secret looks like, you have to click this icon. So it will show you the client secret. So this you will have to use, and you will have to share with the external client. Okay. So I hope this is clear. We'll proceed to the PPT. Let me know once you're able to see the PPT. So are you able to see?
No, not yet.
Now is it fine?
We're still seeing your dev instance.
Okay. Let me. What I will do, I will complete the PPT first, and then I will do the demo. That would be easier for me to, rather than switching.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the same screenshot. Client secret is automatically set. Client secret can be seen when you use the toggle visibility icon. Okay. So now you have done the setup. Okay. So now you have to test the OAuth before you send the details to third-party application. So how we will be testing it? We are using the Postman tool. So Postman is a Google Chrome app for interacting with HTTP APIs. It has a friendly GUI where you can see what request you are sending and what response you will be getting. Okay. You can download the Postman tool from here. Okay. There are a few steps for the Postman application which you have to follow for obtaining the access token first. Okay. So you have to set the HTTP method as post. Okay. The endpoint will be the default endpoint, which is the instance name.servicenow.com/OAuth token.do. So this is the default endpoint for obtaining access token. Even if the instance name is changed, the endpoint will still be the same, which is ending with OAuth token.do. So all the requests which we'll be sending should be formatted as URL encoded, and request parameters should be sent in the HTTP post request as key value pairs. So I will be showing that in the demo as well. So once you fill all the key value pairs, you have to hit the send button. Once you hit the send button, access request, which are you will be getting access token and the refresh token. Okay, so consider you consume the endpoint of obtaining the access token now. Okay, so you will be getting an access token which will be having a validity of 30 minutes. Okay, again in the time span of 30 minutes, if you again hit the same endpoint with the request, you will get the same access token because the token is still valid for 30 minutes. Next slide. So the key value pairs being sent over for obtaining access token, the format should be as below, like the grant type will be password. As I said, for this demo session, I have used the grant type as password. So that's the reason we are using the grant type as password for obtaining the access token. So client ID, this client ID we already saw for the OAuth record. Okay. Client secret we already have, which we'll be sharing to the third party application. Username and password we already have. Okay. So how the request should look like? It should be looking like this. You can see here the method is post. Okay, the endpoint is the OAuth token.do. Then the body is X form URL encoded and the 5 key value pairs which we are sending. Okay, once you hit the send button, you will be getting a response which contains the access token, refresh token, the token type bearer, and the expires in. So what does expires in mean? 1799, those are the seconds. So it approx 1800 seconds, which comes to 30 minutes. So it tells that the access token is valid for 30 minutes. Okay.
We have Amit who had a post in the chat.
Okay. Some questions. Okay. For basic authentication, token required. No, for basic authentication, there is no concept of token. Only for OAuth based authentication, there is a concept of token. Basic authentication just uses the user ID and password for authentication. Okay. Hope that answers your question, Amit. Okay. So now, as a first session, as a first part, what we have seen is how we can get the access token. Okay. So now consider after 30 minutes, again you wish to consume the endpoint, but now the access token has expired because the time span is 30 minutes. So now how you will get the access token again? So there is one approach here which is used, which depends on the refresh token, because refresh tokens are valid for like more number of days or more number of time as compared to access token. They can be used to obtain the access token. Okay. So the HTTP method will still be the same, which is post. Endpoint will still be the same, OAuth token.do. Okay. The request will be formatted as URL encoded, and rest everything will be same. Just the key value pairs which we'll be sending will be different. Okay. So it should be looking like this. So grant type is refresh token. Why grant type is refresh token? Because we are using refresh token to obtain the access token now. So they need, the client need to send the client ID, the client secret, and refresh token. This refresh token is the refresh token which you have received in the previous endpoint. Okay. So they need not send the username password again, as you can see here. So once they are using the refresh token to obtain the access token, there is no need to send the username and password again. So that is a good that is a good or best practice of the OAuth, that it sends the username and password limited number of times. Okay. Something in the chat. Okay. So once you consume the endpoint, okay, so the response will look like this. Again, the response is on the similar lines. You will get the access token. Refresh token will still be the same because refresh token is valid for 100 days. Okay. So the value of refresh token will still be the same. So again, the expires in value will be 1799, which is 1800 seconds for the access token, which comes to 30 minutes. Okay. So now we have covered two parts. One is obtaining the access token. Okay. In the initial request. So that will give you the access token and the refresh token using the user ID password. Second thing which we saw is how to obtain the access token using the refresh token. Okay, once the access token has expired. So now we have received the access token. So now as a next part, we have to consume the actual endpoint. So these endpoints were just to obtain the access token. So now consider you have developed the API or scripted REST API wherein it accepts something in the input and you want to process it and you want to send a response. You can use that access token in the actual endpoint. So for the session, I have created one scripted REST API, and I have used default HTTP GET method to fetch the incident short description based on the incident number. So the endpoint for the API will be looking like this. So you need to send the incident number in the URL. Okay, the HTTP method will be GET, and in the header section, you have to give the key value pairs as below. So you have to send the access token which you have received in order to obtain the API response, because without access token, ServiceNow can't verify your identity. Okay.
We had a quick
So
question.
question. Okay.
From the YouTube.
What will happen if token expires between the transaction? So tokens are supposed to expire only like 30 minutes as per the configuration. So they won't expire before that. So that is what ServiceNow should handle internally. So if the access token timing is 30 minutes, so it is the responsibility of the ServiceNow instance that within the 30 minutes that access token should still be valid. So I will show you how the access tokens are stored and how they can be revoked as a part of the demo. Okay. So once you consume this endpoint, okay, as you can see here, we are using the header as authorization with the value as bearer space the token received. So once you consume this endpoint, you will receive the API response as like the number and the short description. So this was just this was just a scripted REST API which I created for the demo session. Okay. Some more questions. Okay. Everyone. Okay. So what I will do, I will go to the demo and then I will cover up the benefits, best practices, and the security. Okay. So let me know once you are able to see my instance and the Postman tool. So I will stop sharing. So I'm just sharing my instance here now. Let me know once you are able to see it.
Here we go.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So are you able to see now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I will show you already this setup is showed. I will show the user which we have created. Okay. The rest.user. So this is the user which we created in the user table. Okay. Then the scripted REST API which has been created for the session. I will show you that. So this is the API. As you can see here, the resource path for the API includes incident number at the end of the endpoint. So that is the reason we are using the
I think we lost your audio.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So basically this API will just accept the incident number and it will form a body as a response with the number and the short description. So this was the scripted REST API which I have created as a part of the demo session. So now I will share you how the Postman tool can be used for testing. The screenshots which I have shared, I will be doing the live demo on that part. So let me share my Postman tool. Let me know once you're able to see Postman.
Yes, Tim?
Okay. So you can see the endpoint as instance name.com/OAuth token.do and the client ID, client secret, username, password, and the grant type which we have given. So this is the first part, obtaining the access token for the first time. So it would require the username and password to be sent over. So just before this session, I had tested this. So you can see I had received this token, but now I'll be getting another token because it must have expired because its time is 30 minutes. So once I hit the send button, you can see this new access token we have received. Okay. So I will go to the instance and I will show you what record it has created or updated. Let me know once you see the instance. You're able to see the instance.
No, not yet. We're still in your builder.
Okay.
There we go.
Now we, okay. So basically this manage tokens, this is the table which stores the information on the access token and the refresh token. Okay. So if you see that we just now consumed the endpoint. Okay. So it created a record here. You can see here this record got created 1 minute ago and it expires 29 minutes from now. So this table is being used by ServiceNow internally to handle the access token and the refresh token. So you can see here the type is access token. Okay. So as you can see, there is one more record for refresh token for this user, which is REST user. But this has been created way back when I had tested this for my demo. Okay. So whenever you obtain the access token again using the refresh token, this record will get updated. So consider you want to revoke this access token, you have to visit this record and you can click this revoke access. So this access token will then won't be valid, and the external clients won't be able to use the access token. Okay, so now I will come back to the Postman tool. So we have seen how the access token is obtained as a first step using credentials. So now in the Postman tool, what we will see is how we can get the access token using the refresh token. Okay, so this is the second part for the demo. So you can see here we have received the refresh token as this value. So the value will still be the same because its lifespan is 100 days. So you're able to see the Postman tool, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So as you can see here, the body we have given as grant type refresh token. Refresh token is the value which we have received from the previous call, API call. So this is the client ID, this is the client secret. So now once you hit the send button, you will again get the same access token because we are still using the same access token in the time span of 30 minutes. Okay. So consider that this access token expires after 30 minutes. Once you hit this send button, you will get a new access token, and that access token you can use for the actual API endpoint. Okay. So now this covers the second part of the demo, which is obtaining the access token using the refresh token. So now the third part would be how we can get the incident short description as the actual API's endpoint response using the access token. So now you have to copy this access token which you have received. Okay. And when you consume the actual API endpoint, you have to give it in the header as bearer space the latest access token which is valid. So once you hit this, you should see the incident short description. Okay, so what we will do, we will test for some other incident as well just to verify it. So I will be selecting some incident from the table. Okay, so I will be using this 112. So in the Postman, I have used now the incident ending with 112. So now we should see the short description corresponding to that incident. You can see here the short description is fetched correctly for that incident. Okay. So this covers the demo part. Now we'll come back to the slide for the benefits, best practices, and the security approaches. Let me know once you are able to see the PPT again. There's some chats. Okay. Okay, I will take the questions at the end. Will that be fine?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now what are the benefits? What are the best practices? And what are the security related concerns or how it is secured? So coming to the benefits part. So OAuth is an open industry standard protocol, okay, which is used widely. So main benefit is it allows limited access to the resources, and it allows accessing only when the authorization token is valid. So if you are having a token which is invalid or which has expired, then you won't be able to access the instance resource. Okay. So it adds an extra layer of security by using the access token. So as you have seen, access tokens can be revoked by the service in the ServiceNow instance. So even if access tokens are are valid, and if they are compromised, so the attacker will have only limited time to compromise the data because it's only valid for 30 minutes. Okay. So OAuth is easy to use and widely accepted. So OAuth 2.0 is secured as it relies on the TLS encryption to secure the credentials and access token. So why we are focusing on this part? Because the request which we are sending is text form URL encoded. So the values will be sent in the clear text. So they can be stooped into, but OAuth 2.0 relies on TLS encryption to secure the credentials. So I will be coming to that point in the security approach. So using OAuth 2.0, username and password are being used limited number of times. As you have seen in the demo, OAuth 2.0 username and password was only used at the initial stage for obtaining the access token. Okay. Next time onwards, there is no need for using the no need for using the username and password. You can use the refresh token again. But there is one more condition to that. Like consider you have a refresh token which is valid for 100 days. So you can obtain the access token only till the 100 day, till the time the refresh token is valid. If on the next day when the 100 days has crossed, you are trying to obtain the access token using refresh token, you won't be able to get it because the refresh token itself has expired because the time limit has crossed, which is 100 days. Okay. So what are the best practices? So as I said, OAuth 2.0 specification recommends short-lived access token and long-lived refresh token for maximum security and flexibility. I will give you one example also for that. So it also depends on the client's requirement, what they are flexible with. So as per their requirement as well, you have to modify the access token time span and the refresh token time span as well. Okay, but if you keep the access token time span as on a limited side, so they will be purged quickly and they will avoid accumulation in the instance. As you have seen there is a table for managing the tokens, so that table will get populated whenever the access token will be requested. Okay, so access token, when we have considered access token, we are giving as a short time. Okay, now even if it is compromised, attacker will have limited window to abuse the data. So consider access token was compromised and attacker got the access token, so he or she will only have the limited amount of time, which is 30 minutes, to abuse the data. Okay, so you remember we created one user for obtaining the access token, so we need to enable the checkbox of web service access on that user record. So reason being, we have shared the username and password to the third party application. We have shared the instance URL as well, so they can log into the instance with that username and password. Okay, so if we want them not to log into the UI from the desktop or the browser, so we have to enable this checkbox. Okay, so best practice is do not store the client secrets in the database in plain text. Instead, store the value in the hash format. So this best practice is to be followed by the third party application. It's their responsibility how they are storing the client secret, client ID, and the username and password. Okay, so coming to the security aspect. So as I said, OAuth 2.0 is more secured as compared to basic authentication. The reason being it uses the token. Okay, and the authorization grant which we have used, that relies on the TLS encryption to protect the user credentials during transmission. Okay, as I said, the key value pairs are being sent as a clear text. Okay, in the URL. So it is the responsibility of ServiceNow to handle the TLS encryption. So how it handles? So ServiceNow handles this security by using TLS 1.2 protocol for all the incoming HTTPS traffic. So this includes any endpoint which is used to obtain the access token or the REST endpoints used for endpoint integrations. So ServiceNow supports TLS for the incoming HTTPS traffic. So we need not worry about the credentials getting hacked because those are encrypted by ServiceNow whenever a request is being made to the ServiceNow endpoint. That is the OAuth token.do. Okay. So next is TLS 1.2 is recommended security best practice, and it provides a higher degree of privacy and data integrity. Okay, so there are previous versions as well for TLS like TLS 1.0 and 1.1, and ServiceNow has deprecated TLS 1.0, 1.1, and starting from April 30th, 2020, they are migrating or insisting customers to move to TLS 1.2, which is the latest protocol. Okay, so this covers the security aspect, and next will be the demo which I have already showed. I just added a recording here in case the instance goes into a sleep mode. I could show you the demo. Okay, so this covers the session and the demo. So I'm open for the questions if any. So Lisa, you can open the forum for questions, possibly through chat.
Okay, great. Do you want me to read you? Do you know where we left off of the questions on the chat?
Yeah, okay, I will go through the questions from the chat.
Okay, great.
So
Fred was the next one.
okay, who was that? Fred. Okay. So we have a group that is developing. Okay, is it possible to use same by Azure to make the REST call?
Can you read the question?
So yeah, so Fred mentions that they are authenticating users in Azure AD and obtaining an access token. They will then be making REST calls to ServiceNow. We also authenticate ServiceNow user via Azure AD. Is it possible to use the same token issued by Azure to make the REST calls? No, I don't think so, because the OAuth application registry you have to create in ServiceNow, and I believe you are using the token from the Azure AD. Okay, so if yes, then is there a benefit doing separate token from ServiceNow? Okay, I think that answers the question, that you have to use a token which is generated by the ServiceNow to access the ServiceNow instance. Any token which is generated by some other application, we can't use that, because ServiceNow is the provider of the token here. Okay. Gurjot Singh mentions that can I use the same concept to create something like login with ServiceNow using my username and password? I will obtain access token using which I'm able to log into third party. No, this is not for login to the third party. This is for accessing the instance endpoint. Okay. So basically this is for the APIs which you have created, like consider table API or the scripted API, and you want to share the API endpoints to the third party team, and they are insisting on the authentication. Okay, as a part of authentication instead of basic authentication. So this will help you establishing the OAuth connection between the ServiceNow instance and the third party application. So okay, so the next question was, how do we generate refresh token once it gets expired after 100 days? Okay, so nice question. So okay, so refresh token has a time span of 100 days. Okay, so what happens after 100 days? So you will have to again make the call to the endpoint using all the 5 key value pairs. Okay, so there you will have to send the client ID, client secret, username, password, okay, and the grant type. So once refresh token expires, the only way to get the access token is sending all the 5 key value pairs again. Okay, hope Abhinandan's question is answered there. So no need to write a scheduled job to generate. Okay, so there is no need to write a scheduled job. Okay, so I think I covered most of the questions. Any other questions? Okay.
Two more.
Okay. Okay. So while requirement gathering, what are the details we have to collect? Okay. So Satish, so we need not collect any information as such from the third party. So only thing is they should have the support, or they should have the capability to consume the endpoint with OAuth 2.0 protocol, because OAuth 1.0 is deprecated in ServiceNow. And if they are still using OAuth 1.0, so we have to insist them to use OAuth 2.0, because OAuth 1.0 is deprecated by ServiceNow. So there are few things which you'll have to share with them, which I have mentioned, which is the client ID, client secret, right? Username, password, okay, and the format, how it has to be consumed. So once you share the format to them, it is their responsibility how they can consume internally, okay, in their application. So you will have to just tell them these couple of details and the endpoint as well, and how they can obtain the access token, and how they can obtain the access token using the refresh token as well. So hope that answers your question, Satish. Next is Debakar Datta. Can you also show any example where ServiceNow is consuming OAuth token while accessing any external service? So Debakar, this is altogether a different topic. So the topic which has been covered here is for the inbound REST endpoints, how external applications can consume the ServiceNow endpoint using OAuth. Okay. So the question which you have mentioned is for the outbound. So this is altogether a different question. So yeah, ServiceNow also supports consuming the endpoint of external applications using OAuth. So you can configure the ServiceNow, what you say, uh, you can configure the REST messages, right? And you can configure the OAuth profile and profile as well. That covers altogether a different topic. So I think that's for the outbound. So yeah. So okay, recording will be at the end. Okay.
Yes, the YouTube video that we recorded right now live is available already on that community link that I have provided.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, I think any other questions from participants, or else then I can show some other glad to know topic as well around this.
All right, well, let's just continue and see how they just come pouring in. It takes a little
Okay.
while for people to type, but
Okay. Okay. So I will share some interesting or some informative around this. So I will share the instance here. Let me know once you are able to see the instance.
there we go. We got it. Thanks.
Okay. So as I told, this table is being used to store the details about the access token and the refresh token. You can see here that the user is REST user. Okay. So consider you have different OAuth application being set up for the different applications. Like one is for the SAP, one is for the Salesforce. So each entry will be maintained here for different users. You can give the same user, but it is recommended to give different users for different applications. Okay. So this table is also cleaned up by a scheduled job. Okay. So the name of the scheduled job I will tell you, because ServiceNow should internally clean up this table. If they don't clean up the table, this table will get populated and it will get accumulated over a period of time. Okay. So if we go to the today's scheduled job, and you can see here there is one with the name as clean expired OAuth credentials. Okay. So basically this is responsible for clearing out the table, okay, for the tokens which are expired. So basically it will clear it will be deleting the records from this table based on this condition, like if the expires value is based on this property. Okay. So there is one this system property. Okay. I will show you what this system property is containing. So what it contains a value as 4, which is integer. So what it tells is the minimum number of hours an expired OAuth credential record is kept. So consider that we generated the token around 7:30 p.m. IST as per my timing, and the token will still be present in the table for 4 hours. Okay. But it will be invalid after 30 minutes. That is fine. But the record will be deleted after 4 hours. Okay. Because the property is configured with the timing as 4 hours. Okay. Any questions around this, around the table record? As I have already told you, like we can revoke the access. So consider that we want the access token or the refresh token to be revoked. So you can see this button here, revoke access. So once you click that, the access token or the refresh token, whichever you want to revoke, it will be revoked, and the external application won't be able to consume the endpoint or won't be able to use the same access token again. Okay. So now, is anything in the chat? Okay, nothing yet.
Not seeing any
So
questions yet.
yeah, so any other, yeah, any other questions
Yeah.
from?
Is it storing entry for every user trying to access ServiceNow from external app?
Yeah, so that's correct. So consider that you have shared a user detail to Salesforce, okay, and one other detail with some other application like SAP, okay, with some other user. So as you can see here, I had tested it with some other user as well previously. So it created a record with that user. So you can see 2 records for this user, REST user, one for the, I will do a group by on the user. That will help you identify easily. So as you can see here, so this REST user is the one which I use for the demo. So 2 records will be there. One is for the access token, one is for the refresh token. So now I had used this REST user one as well previously during my testing. So you can see only one record exists for this, which is a refresh token. The reason being the record for the access token should have been deleted by the scheduled job, okay, because the token was already expired. So it will create an entry in this table every time whenever a fresh access token is being issued. Okay. So okay, how do we track any issues with OAuth in ServiceNow? Do we have any logs table in ServiceNow to go through all the transactions? Nice question. Even I haven't seen on this part, but yeah, we can see something. We can try seeing something is shown in the transaction logs or no. Okay, it's nothing in the active transaction.
Yes, we can see it too. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So just let me check here. Auth token.do anywhere. I don't think anywhere the transactions are being logged, but yeah, I will check on this part and I will post a reply to the comment on the blog. I will try finding this. Okay. So what is the next? Anything next?
How do we track any uses?
Yeah, so that was the question which Abhinandan asked, and I replied like, so Abhinandan, if you could explain what kind of issue you are referring to. Like, there could be a scenario like third party is trying to obtain the access token, but the user itself is active false or logged out. So in that case, they will get the actual. We will just see what happens when we make the user as inactive. Okay, what response they get when they try to consume the endpoint. Okay, so I will set this user as active false. Okay, and we will try to consume the endpoint in the Postman. Okay, so where is Postman? Okay, so we will try to get the access token with this user. Okay, so now this user is, let's see, this user is active false. You can see here they will get a error like access denied. So there could be multiple reasons why they were not able to get the access token. One reason was like the user was active false. Another reason would be like user is logged out. Okay, so such type of errors, we can tell them that once they encounter such type of issue, we can then check in the instance whether the user is, what you say, whether the user is active true and not logged out. So this is one type of issue which might happen, that the user, the external clients are not able to obtain the access token. Okay, because the user is itself invalid. Okay, uh, have you run into any issues with obtaining or passing OAuth internal or external to a firewall? So since this session is around like inbound, okay, and ServiceNow is in the public cloud and the instance can be accessed without any firewall restriction or anywhere, so there should not be any issue in obtaining the access token. But yeah, if if the external client is having any application which they are using for consuming the endpoint and their firewall is restricting the access to the external cloud endpoint, so they need to check whether they're able to access the instance endpoint or not. So if they're able to access the instance endpoint, they should be able to get the access token as well. Okay, so they will have to add an exception to their firewall if they are not able to access the instance endpoint. Many times there is a case like the application with which we are integrating is in the internal network of the client. Okay, so they can't directly access the instance endpoint. Okay, so in that case what we'll have to do, we'll have to get the IP address of the instance. Like, consider we are using dev, test, and production, so we will have to get the IP address of those three instances, and we will have to share with them those three IP addresses so that their firewall will allow the traffic to that IP address. Okay, so hope that answers your question. How to handle if the refresh token which we consume from the third party is valid only for 3 hours, and how to make the refresh token keep updating once it is expired? Is it via scheduled job or something else? Okay, I think it's the same question which Abhinandan asked. I will repeat the same. Like, consider that refresh token expires after 100 days. Okay, and on the next day you want to get the access token again. So now here in this case you won't be able to get the access token because the refresh token itself has expired. So in that case you will have to consume the endpoint with all the 5 key value pairs. In that case you will be getting the fresh access token and the refresh token. So one thing which you have to remember is obtaining the access token using the refresh token will only make sense till the time the refresh token is valid. So consider the refresh token is valid for 100 days. Okay, so till 100 days you have the time to obtain the access token if the access token is expired. On the next day you will have to consume this endpoint again with all these 5 key value pairs, which is the which includes the username and password. So there comes a point here. As I said, it depends on the external applications or the clients as well, how they want to handle, how they want access token timing. ServiceNow has given the flexibility to increase the time or the decreasing the time. Okay. So as an example, what I can tell is, like, consider you have a application where like it's a critical application and banking related application which is trying to consume the endpoint. Okay. In that case, we can keep the access token on a lower side. Okay. Because the data which they are consuming could be a secure data, and we don't want the data to be compromised if the access token is compromised. Okay. So it all depends on how the external client is willing to do that. Okay. If they want the access token to be increased, we can increase that. If they want to decrease it for the security purpose, we can decrease it. Okay. So keeping it on a lower side will just ensure that even if the access token is compromised, attacker will have only limited time to abuse the data. Okay. So like 10 minutes or 30 minutes. But if you keep the access token on a longer time span, then the access token already received with the attacker, it can be used to obtain the instance access or the access the instance resource, whichever is the actual endpoint or whatever. They can do anything with the access token. Okay, once it is hacked. So now comes the point, like if refresh token like if whether the TLS encryption is will allow the snooping or not. Okay. So TLS 1.2 is the protocol which is for the encryption. Okay. So it is widely used. So it is it's a very less chance that it will get snooped, and the attacker will see the username, password, or the credentials or whatever you send in the URL. Okay. So that we have to rely on the protocol TLS. Okay. So we can't do much on that side. So that covers the security part. Hope that answers your question, Aziz. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any quite yet. Looks like you're thoroughly covering the topic, so this is great. Did you, and you got the last one that's in the chat.
Okay. I think the last one was from Aziz.
Okay, great. Well, I do offer that on that blog post that we've included that link that there you can always post more questions after we cease the live session. So that's where you'll be able to get more information from Ankur. And we'll just wait it up. Here we go. Great discussion. All right.
Okay, so Gurjot Singh has one question: is use of ServiceNow generated client ID? Okay, yeah. So basically, like as I said, this OAuth 2.0 requires client ID to be generated for every client. So this client ID will be generated automatically by the instance. So if you create one more application registry, it will create one more client ID, and it will create a fresh client secret as well. So as I said earlier, like consider you are doing an integration with two applications. One is SAP and one is Salesforce. Okay. So you will have to create two records in that OAuth application registry. One is for Salesforce and one is for SAP. So each of the team should have all the details which you will be sharing in order to obtain the access token and obtain in order to consume the actual endpoint. Okay. So client ID and client secret combination is unique for each application. Like here in the case SAP and the Salesforce. So SAP will have a client ID client secret combination, and Salesforce will have one more client ID client secret combination. Okay.
Well, are you interested in doing another session regarding outbound? I can do an Ask the Expert event on the community if you have availability. Think about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I can take it up as per the availability and like how it goes.
Fantastic. Well, we just have a few more minutes. And again, we want to thank everyone for joining us today. With that, Ankur, do you want to close up?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we are good. So already we have listed a couple questions. If any further questions, we can then you can then post it on the blog, and then I can come back and I can reply there with my findings and observations.
Great. Well, again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today and hope that you've enjoyed this Knowledge 2020 session. Please join us on the community for posting more questions and finding more answers. And with that, I want to thank everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Bye bye. Take care.